Good morning, children. Today we are going to learn about a very interesting lesson, The Parrot Who Wouldn't Talk, written by the author Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond is one of India's best loved storytellers. He has spent most of his life in Dehradun and loves writing about the forest, hill stations, and people of this region. Before we learn this lesson, The Parrot Who Wouldn't Talk, children, I would like to ask you few simple questions. Question number 1. Which bird can run for half an hour without stopping? Yes, it's an ostrich. Now, question number 2. Which bird can learn to copy human voices? Yes, it's a parrot. Question number 3. Which bird can beat their wings very fast? Yes, it's a hummingbird. Now, question number 4. Which bird can turn their heads all the way around? Yes, it's an owl. Children, most of us are familiar with pets. Some of us even own one. It can be a dog, a cat, a goldfish, or lovebirds. Isn't it, children? Same way, in this lesson, the author Ruskin Bond's Aunt Ruby wanted to have a caged parrot as a pet. So, Aunt Ruby bought a parrot from a bird catcher. She wanted to teach it to talk and hear it talk back. But the parrot refused to learn what Aunt Ruby taught it because the parrot did not like her at all. One day, Aunt Ruby put her face next to the parrot's cage. Suddenly, the parrot moved forward and pushed the spectacles off her nose. Aunt Ruby started speaking to the parrot rudely. She even started making faces at him and calling out, "You're useless, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance." All of a sudden, one day, the parrot escaped from its cage. Children, now let's read the lesson and find out what happened to the parrot. When I was growing up in Missouri, almost all our neighbors kept a pet parrot or parakeet. Sometimes these birds would learn to talk. They would say things like, "Study, child, study," or "Don't be greedy, don't be greedy." These words and phrases were, of course, learnt after some member of the household had repeated them many times in front of the bird. Here, the speaker narrates his experience growing up in Missouri. Almost all of their neighbors kept a pet parrot or parakeet. Parakeet is nothing but a small bird of the parrot family, usually with a long tail. Parrots and parakeets learn to talk when someone repeats some words and phrases many times in front of them. But the parrot which Aunt Ruby bought refused to talk. The word greedy means wanting a lot more than you need. Let's move on to the next lines. But our parrot refused to talk. He had been bought by Aunt Ruby from a bird catcher who visited all the houses on our road. Grandmother and grandfather did not want a caged bird as a pet, but Aunt Ruby insisted. Insisted means saying firmly. So, the author's grandmother and grandfather, they did not like Aunt Ruby buying a caged bird as a pet, but Aunt Ruby insisted. Insisted means she said firmly that she needs a pet. Now let's move on to the next paragraphs. So she bought the parrot and tried to teach him to talk. But the parrot did not like her at all. "Kiss, kiss," Aunt Ruby would say, putting her face close to the bars of the cage. But the parrot would move back, his beady eyes getting smaller with anger. One day he lunged forward and pushed my aunt's spectacles off her nose. Aunt Ruby started teaching the parrot to talk. So she goes closer to the parrot and she would say kiss kiss. But the parrot did not like her at all. With the help of his beady eyes, that is watching very closely, he just lunged forward and pushed her spectacles off her nose. The word beady means watching everything closely. And the word lunged means moving forward suddenly to catch or attack something. Let's continue reading the following paragraphs. After that, Aunt Ruby did not like the parrot anymore. She started making faces at him and calling out, "You are useless, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance." Grandmother then put me in charge of feeding the parrot. He was quite happy to take green chilies, pieces of papaya, and ripe tomatoes from my hands. I also gave him slices of mango. This gave me a chance to eat a few mangoes while feeding the parrot. One afternoon, while everyone was in the dining room, I gave the parrot his lunch. By mistake, I left the cage door open. Seconds later, the bird flew away to sit on the mango tree. Since the parrot pushed Aunt Ruby's spectacles off her nose, Aunt Ruby started hating the parrot. She started making faces at him and using all unkind words. She started saying, "You are useless, can't talk, can't sing, can't dance." Now the author, Ruskin Bond, got a chance to feed the parrot. He was so happy to give green chilies, pieces of papaya and ripe tomatoes. He also gave him some slices of mango because he got a chance to eat few mangoes while feeding the parrot. One afternoon, after feeding the parrot, the speaker left the cage door open by mistake and the parrot escaped from the cage. The parrot is no more in the cage now. Children, why do you think the parrot escaped from the cage? Let's see what happened to the parrot in the next class. Children, I would like to encourage you all to explore your imagination and guess an answer. What has happened to the parrot? Do you think the parrot will come back to meet Aunt Ruby? If yes, why? Why do you think so? Please write down your answers in your rough note. Let's continue the same lesson next class. Thank you.